Daniel Giantbulb and the Three Mean Maggots. A Fairy Tale. By writer unknown. Once upon a time there was a peculiar boy called Daniel Giantbulb. He was on the way to see his Sonia Gray, when he decided to take a shortcut through gruesome side forest. It wasn't long before Daniel got lost. He looked around, but all he could see were trees. Nervously, he felt into his bag for his favorite toy, Terrence the Moose, but Terrence the Moose was nowhere to be found. Daniel began to panic. He felt sure he had packed Terrence the Moose. To make matters worse, he was starting to feel hungry. Unexpectedly, he saw a mean maggot dressed in a red jacket disappearing into the trees. How odd, thought Daniel. For the want of anything better to do, he decided to follow the peculiarly dressed maggot. Perhaps it could tell him the way out of the forest. Eventually, Daniel reached a clearing. He found himself surrounded by houses made from different sorts of food. There was a house made from pumpkins, a house made from chocolates, a house made from sweets, and a house made from humbugs. Daniel could feel his tummy rumbling. Looking at the houses did nothing to ease his hunger. Hello, he called. Is anybody there? Nobody replied. Daniel looked at the roof on the closest house and wondered if it would be rude to eat somebody else's chimney. Obviously it would be impolite to eat a whole house, but perhaps it would be considered acceptable to nibble the odd fixture or lick the odd fitting, in a time of need. A cackle broke through the air, giving Daniel a fright. A witch jumped into the space in front of the houses. She was carrying a cage. In that cage was Terrence the Moose. Terrence the Moose, shouted Daniel. He turned to the witch. That's my toy. The witch just shrugged. Give Terrence the Moose back, cried Daniel. Not on your Nelly, said the witch. At least let Terrence the Moose out of that cage. Before she could reply, three mean maggots rushed in from a footpath on the other side of the clearing. Daniel recognized the one in the red jacket that he'd seen earlier. The witch seemed to recognize him too. Hello, big maggot, said the witch. Good morning. The maggot noticed Terrence the Moose. Who is this? That's Terrence the Moose, explained the witch. Oh. Terrence the Moose would look lovely in my house. Give it to me, demanded the maggot. The witch shook her head. Terrence the Moose is staying with me. Excuse me. Daniel interrupted. Terrence the Moose lives with me. And not in a cage. Big maggot ignored him. Is there nothing you'll trade? He asked the witch. The witch thought for a moment, then said, I do like to be entertained. I'll release him to anybody who can eat a whole front door. Big maggot looked at the house made from humbugs and said, no problem, I could eat an entire house made from humbugs if I wanted to. That's nothing, said the next maggot. I could eat 2 houses. There's no need to show off, said the witch. Just eat 1 front door and I'll let you have Terrence the Moose. Daniel watched, feeling very worried. He didn't want the witch to give Terrence the Moose to Big Maggot. He didn't think Terrence the Moose would like living with a mean maggot, away from his house and all his other toys. The other 2 maggots watched while Big Maggot put on his bib and withdrew a knife and fork from his pocket. I'll eat this whole house, said Big Maggot. Just you watch. Big Maggot pulled off a corner of the front door of the house made from chocolates. He gulped it down smiling, and went back for more. And more. And more. Eventually, Big Maggot started to get bigger, just a little bit bigger at first. But after a few more forkfuls of chocolates, he grew to the size of a large snowball, and he was every bit as round. I don't feel too good, said Big Maggot. Suddenly, he started to roll. He'd grown so round that he could no longer balance. Help, he cried, as he rolled off down a slope into the forest. Big Maggot never finished eating the front door made from chocolates and Terrence the Moose remained trapped in the witch's cage. Average Maggot stepped up, and approached the house made from sweets. I'll eat this whole house, said Average Maggot. Just you watch. Average Maggot pulled off a corner of the front door of the house made from sweets. She gulped it down smiling, and went back for more. And more. And more. After a while, Average Maggot started to look a little queasy. She grew greener. And greener. A woodcutter walked into the clearing. What's this bush doing here? He asked. I'm not a bush, I'm a maggot, said Average Maggot. It talks, exclaimed the woodcutter. Those talking bushes are the worst kind. I'd better take it away before somebody gets hurt. No. Wait, cried Average Maggot, as the woodcutter picked her up. But the woodcutter ignored her cries and carried the maggot away under his arm. Average Maggot never finished eating the front door made from sweets and Terrence the Moose remained trapped in the witch's cage. Little Maggot stepped up, and approached the house made from humbugs. I'll eat this whole house, said Little Maggot. Just you watch. Little Maggot pulled off a corner of the front door of the house made from humbugs. He gulped it down smiling, and went back for more. And more. And more. After 5 or 6 platefuls, Little Maggot started to fidget uncomfortably on the spot. He stopped eating humbugs for a moment, then grabbed another forkful. But before he could eat it, there came an almighty roar. A bottom burp louder than a rocket taking off, propelled Little Maggot into the sky. Ag, cried Little Maggot. I'm scared of hay. Little Maggot was never seen again. Little Maggot never finished eating the front door made from humbugs and Terrence the Moose remained trapped in the witch's cage. That's it, said the witch. I win. I get to keep Terrence the Moose. Not so fast, said Daniel. There is still 1 front door to go. The front door of the house made from pumpkins. And I haven't had a turn yet. I don't have to give you a turn, laughed the witch. My game. My rules. The woodcutter's voice carried through the forest. I think you should give him a chance. It's only fair. Fine, said the witch. But you saw what happened to the maggots. He won't last long. I'll be right back, said Daniel. What, said the witch. Where's your sense of impatience? I thought you wanted Terrence the Moose back. Daniel ignored the witch and gathered a hefty pile of sticks. He came back to the clearing and started a small campfire. Carefully, he broke off a piece of the door of the house made from pumpkins and toasted it over the fire. Once it had cooked and cooled just a little, he took a bite. He quickly devoured the whole piece. Daniel sat down on a nearby log. You fail, cackled the witch. You were supposed to eat the whole door. I haven't finished, explained Daniel. I am just waiting for my food to go down. When Daniel's food had digested, he broke off another piece of the door made from pumpkins. Once more, he toasted his food over the fire and waited for it to cool just a little. He ate it at a leisurely pace then waited for it to digest. Eventually, after several sittings, Daniel was down to the final piece of the door made from pumpkins. Carefully, he toasted it and allowed it to cool just a little. He finished his final course. Daniel had eaten the entire front door of the house made from pumpkins. The witch stamped her foot angrily. You must have tricked me, she said. I don't reward cheating. I don't think so, said a voice. It was the woodcutter. He walked back into the clearing, carrying his axe. This little boy won fair and square. Now hand over Terrence the Moose or I will chop your broomstick in half. The witch looked horrified. She grabbed her broomstick and placed it behind her. Then, huffing, she opened the door of the cage. Daniel hurried over and grabbed Terrence the Moose, checking that his favorite toy was all right. Fortunately, Terrence the moose was unharmed. Daniel thanked the woodcutter, grabbed the quick souvenir, and hurried on to meet Sonia. It was starting to get dark. When Daniel got to Sonia's house, Iz threw her arms around him. "I was so worried," cried Sonia. "You are very late." As Daniel described his day, he could tell that Sonia didn't believe him. So he grabbed a napkin from his pocket. "What's that?" asked Sonia. Daniel unwrapped a doorknob made from chocolates. "Pudding," he said. Sonia almost fell off her chair. The end.